Hi, welcome back to our live streaming party. Sorry for that technical difficulty. My name is Amy Venner-Hamdi, and I am here with my friend and business partner, David Sandoval, and we have got some really amazing information to share with you tonight. So as we're just getting back on here, as we're getting people dialed into the feed, please, if you care about health, if you care about nutrition, if you are aware of GMOs and how they can compromise your health, share this feed with a friend, share this out on your Facebook page, because we've got some really important information that we're going to be sharing tonight.
Yeah, just like we did the echo groups at convention, we want you to echo this out as well. That's what this is all about, creating that echo effect where it goes through the canyon and you're in one end of the canyon and someone miles away can hear you say hello. And so we want you to share. If you're not familiar with social media, most of you are, but just in case you're not, there is a share button, and if you hit that, then your friends are going to be able to watch live if they want to. They're not forced to, but they'll be able to if they want to. And so, Amy, I know that we have a pretty short runway tonight. We just have 30 minutes, and we have a lot to cover. And so I'm going to go ahead and invite you to go ahead and let everybody know what we're going to feed them tonight, no pun intended, and hopefully they're ready to digest it.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I know the anticipation has been building, for tonight's event, and I just wanted to start out and really, take a trip down memory lane for a moment. That one thing that I think you should be so amazingly proud of yourself, and I know I'm proud to be associated, as a friend and business partner with you, is you are a visionary, you are an innovator. You actually are a disruptor of industry norms. And over the 20-something years that I've known you and we've been working together, there is a list, like literally a list of things that Dave has innovated. He's disrupted that market space. The first one was Green Kamut, to really bring about a true powdered green drink that had no binders, no fillers, no maltodextrin, that really alkalized the body just like fresh squeezed.
Did you mention that it came from an ancient Egyptian tomb? There was no other wheat like it in the world. No one had heard about it. It was called kamut. And again, we all have heard of it now. We see it in bread, we see it in cereals, we see it in everything. But at that time, Amy and I took a chance on this ancient Egyptian food. And now, as you know, it is the finest wheatgrass in the world.
And then remember, because we were promoting, we were selling, we were teaching about living food, but we were scaring people like crazy. How can there be bacteria in my food? And just think of all the education you had to do to get that initiative put forward. And now it's common. People know you can't have pathogens, you can't have the bacteria that makes you sick, but living flora, having plate count and bacteria in your food actually helps make our bodies stronger.
She's so right. Let me put it in perspective. The law basically said that if it was 10,000 CFUs or more, it was dangerous. But I asked, if you take one bite of an apple and there's 10 billion CFUs and you never get sick, you get healthy, what's the difference? And the difference was they were afraid. They were afraid of what they didn't know. So there's different type of bacteria. Some are really good for you, some are just there, and some are bad for you. So I guess that's 3 types. And
who's counting?
Exactly. So, but the bottom line is, we know that we don't want the bad ones. And if you wanted the good ones, they had to be put into capsules and marked with a number. But it's that middle bacteria that was just part of living food that we find is way more important, because it stimulates your body with living raw food energy. So we fought very hard, and we literally changed the industry so that they would accept raw food. But there's more.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that was a big battle, but we were one of the first, if not the first, to bring tart cherry to the market. We know that apothecary is one of our very favorite products in the Purium line, and we were one of the first to do that.
Actually, I remember that we saw one small company selling it, and we said, what is this? They said, we grow it, and then we have this company juice it and bottle it for us. We said, I think we should be partners. And we partnered up with that first company ever, and we became like their voice, and we spread that to the world. We since moved on because we needed bigger orchards, but they're still dear friends, and we love them for what they started. But we grabbed that opportunity and we ran with it. But if we just back up a minute though, when I was studying to be a commodity trader, I heard that coconut oil actually makes you skinny. And I thought nobody knows that, so I asked Amy if we could start to sell coconut oil for weight loss, and she said, but everybody says coconut oil is bad for you. I said, I think that the world's about to think differently. So we started selling coconut oil, and literally, not a year, maybe 5 years later, but it seemed everybody learned about coconut oil because books started to be written about it, and all of a sudden we were on the front of a wave. I must admit we were accidental celebrities in that one. I didn't know all the good stuff with it was in coconut oil, but I knew it would help you lose weight. I knew it was the fat that burned fat, and that got us in the door first.
So we've got coconut oil, we have the tart cherry. We were one of the first companies to bring a natural vitamin C and kind of dispel the myth of ascorbic acid.
Yeah, did you know that ascorbic acid isn't vitamin C? And that for years people sold ascorbic acid and it said vitamin C, and they still do. It says vitamin C here, but ascorbic acid there. That's a lie. Not only that, if you're suffering from scurvy, a lack of vitamin C, ascorbic acid will never fix it. So we started selling true, authentic, real food vitamin C, and now everybody's trying to do the same.
And so red marine algae for immune support was another one, as well as, remember when chia was only for chia pets? And we were among the very first, if not the first, to sell chia as food. And I remember
we were the first.
trying to import that, and the import officer was like, what? What are you doing here?
Yeah, so when we tried to get approval to put chia into a food recipe, they denied it because it wasn't classified yet as fit for human consumption in America. And so we fought that battle, and now everybody wants it. Then we fought to get it organic. Now we've got that too. So we love to be innovators. We love to be disruptors. We love to challenge people, to challenge the industry, to raise that standard, to say you could do better. You're too comfortable. You're too comfortable. We're going to disrupt this market. We're going to challenge you to do better. And we're pretty good at that.
Well, that's what we've been doing for over 20 years, and I'm really proud of the work that we've done. But there is another problem that has been bubbling up. It's been surfacing up, and it is coming to the surface, and it was something that we just could no longer ignore. And that's a big problem that we want to focus the rest of this event on tonight.
Absolutely. So let me tell you what Amy's talking about. You see, in nature, we only could deal with stress 3 different ways. This is from the beginning of time until the end of time. And that's you block the stress, you could suppress it, or you could repair it. So let's say you could never get the cold, right? Because you don't get exposed to anybody, you stay in your house all the time. You could get exposed to a cold, but because you eat really, really good, it hardly affects you. You get a little bit of a cold, some sniffles. Then again, if you get a really bad cold, then you need to somehow repair it. You need to somehow try to fight the cold using maybe natural vitamin C or something like that. The bottom line is that you can block, suppress, and repair, and we have a problem so big that we tried to block it. We are trying so hard to block it, and that problem is the proliferation of genetically modified organisms in our food supply. And at first, we thought the problem was the genetically modified food itself, because everybody who was eating that was, well, not everybody, I can't say that by law. Many people reported that after eating genetically modified food, they didn't feel so good.
Right.
And now it turns out it wasn't necessarily the genetically modified food, which I still abhor.
And the problem is this is so new, we just don't know.
We don't know yet, but we do know this. We do know that the state of California, we know that the World Health Organization, the National Academy of Sciences, right?
The European Union.
The European Union have all ruled that this is a known carcinogen and it is not good for human beings. It's that simple. It's not good stuff. So it's now pervasive in society, and because of it, there's a problem. So the thing is, to be an innovator, you have to recognize that there's a problem, that there is no true vitamin C. You have to recognize that there is no true raw food. You have to recognize, these different things. And she didn't even mention that we were the first to make tablets without binders, fillers, and things like that. So there's a lot to go there.
Long list.
the bottom line is that I want to go through and define this problem for you in a way that will make it very easy to understand. And I want you to think of it like you're part of the Million Mom movement right now. I don't care if you're a grandfather, a dad, or a brother or a son. Right now, everybody think like a mom, because we want to protect the children of the earth. So that doesn't mean you can't think like a dad too. I didn't mean to take that away at all. But from the perspective of the Million Mom movement, we sort of imagine that moms are going to really, really be involved in this, because they're oftentimes involved in buying the food. And if the food they're buying turned out to potentially be toxic, they're probably going to be first in line to want to have an anti-GMO food. And that's what we want to talk about tonight, the world's first anti-GMO food. We can't stop GMO foods from being produced. We cannot stop glyphosate from being pervasive in our society. Okay? But what we could do is we could look at the effect that it has, and then we could try to repair the damage that's done.
So I just wanted to break in here a minute, because we've been teaching for years as part of the Million Mom movement to read labels, to be aware, to limit the purchases or stop purchasing or eating out at restaurants that serve GMO foods. But what has come to light in these last few months, last few years, is, as Dave was saying, this problem is not only about what you're bringing into your home. It's not only about what restaurant you go out to eat at. It's pervasive. It's everywhere, because we can't control what the county may be spraying on the roadways. We can't control what may be sprayed or put on the golf course that's in our neighborhood. And so, as this word he's using is pervasive, I mean, it is pervasive. These chemicals that can harm our body, they're everywhere. And if you live in an urban environment, if you live in a suburban environment, unfortunately, we are exposed, even though we're part of the Million Mom movement and we're doing everything we can to eat organic and make sure that we're not consuming those GMOs and those chemicals through our diet. And that's scary. That's scary when you think you're trying as hard as you possibly can and you're still maybe not winning all the way.
What if the label says non-GMO? So you know it's not it's a non-GMO. There's not a GMO seed involved. But check this out. Grains today are spraying, non-GMO grains are spraying glyphosate on the product, on their crops in order to wilt them. It's called desiccating. It makes them drier faster. That means when they cut it, their blades go faster. They don't get dull as quick. They save money. They go faster. And the grain falls out of the stalk almost just so much easier because it's dying. Mm-hmm. And so the problem is, this wasn't put on at the beginning. This wasn't put on at the beginning when they started growing it to stop weeds. This was put at the end. So the chance of it having evaporated into the environment is even greater. So the term non-GMO on your label just went out the door when it relates to grains, because they're using it on grains that are not genetically modified. So pervasive is the answer, and pervasive are the problems, and we're going to get to that. But pervasive are the problems. So if we were to take a chart and draw a line as the use of this chemical, right, over the years, it would look like that. If we were to take a chart and look at the increased incidences of certain conditions among those who were exposed to that, that is the almost identical line. The increase in autoimmune problems, the increase in birth defects, the increase in people suffering from, well, we're going to get into that. But the bottom line is it's going up at the exact same rate. So we know that there's
a correlation. There is a correlation. And so now, what do we do about it? What do we do? What can we do as a concerned head of household, as a concerned mom, as a concerned dad? What can we do for ourselves and our family?
Okay, so we got a little script. I don't know, are we going to follow that or you just want to wing it?
I think we should wing it.
Okay, great. So here's the problem. We're going to introduce some new terms today that a lot of you may not understand. And one of them is glyphosate. And glyphosate is a chemical that's used to grow genetically modified foods originally. But it's also called Roundup. And it's used in parks, it's used in your yards, and it's sold everywhere. And so the bottom line is that it could be, even if you eat organic, it's more than likely affecting you. Now, how does it affect you? Well, this glyphosate was created to kill all organisms that are not genetically modified. So if there's a plant and it's not genetically modified, then it's going to die. Now, we have organisms in our body too. They're healthy organisms called bacteria. And when we eat and this chemical goes through our digestive tract, it makes contact with those bacteria, with those organisms in our body, and they die. Now, those organisms that die are actually part of a protective mucosa that is very important in our lower gut. And that is called, and this is a new word, just like glyphosate is a new word, this is another new word, and it's called our
microbiome.
Yeah, the microbiome. So it's like you're buying an ohm. So
we should all say it together.
Ready?
Microbiome.
And so you're not buying a big ohm, you're buying a micro ohm. So so the microbiome is, though, as much as we're laughing about it, it's known as
the second brain. It's known as the second brain, that it actually is part of the nervous system, not the central nervous system. It's actually a standalone piece that has a very direct, scientifically proven connection to the brain in our skull.
Now, when we say it's the second brain, what Amy's talking about is that it actually gives more neurotransmissions than this brain. Yeah, more neurotransmissions come from the second brain. Not only that, but serotonin. Serotonin is the chemical that actually becomes melatonin, gives you deep, restful sleep, but it also makes you feel satisfied and it makes you feel happy. And so when you have more serotonin, you're less likely to be depressed, less likely to be addicted, less likely to overeat. And that's really cool. So,
and the second brain also has been proven to regulate your immunity.
Yeah, over 80% of those immune signals come from this gut.
Mm-hmm. And so what's crazy is in the scientific literature out there in the scientific community, you say, well, if this chemical is so bad, why are we selling it on the market here? And it's because there's a metabolic process that humans don't have. So it affects the metabolic process in bacteria, and humans don't have that in our human cells, but in the bacteria living in our gut, they do have it. So in a human cell, in a micro, in a dish, it may not affect it, but the bacteria living in our gut absolutely will be affected. And so in this literature and how this product ended up on the market, we're completely discounting the secondary effect. And it's really, honestly, it's appalling. It's appalling.
So just to wrap it up, it is responsible for getting rid of 70 to 80% of the toxins in your body. And if it's not working, they will re-enter your body. It's responsible for triggering 70 to 80% of your immune response. And if it's not working, your immune response is not working. It's responsible for releasing 70 to 80% of the serotonin, which means you're not going to have proper brain balance. That's how it affects this brain. Only 30% of the serotonin is produced by this brain. And finally, again, this gut permeability, this is, it's really crazy that if you look at the tightness, you know, the pattern that's really tight, and then as the pattern gets bigger, then that's how food that shouldn't be passing through, that is not yet digested, toxins that should not be passing through, that should be eliminated. And this is really bad for the body. So increased gut permeability is one of those effects as well. But I think we need to back up a tiny bit. Let's talk more about the microbiome, where it is, and sort of what it's comprised of.
Well, the microbiome is your intestine, your lower intestine. And that is where the villi is, where you're absorbing your nutrients. Mm-hmm. It is, again, referred to as the second brain because it is so interconnected. There, you know, science is showing how connected it is to your, you know, your primary brain.
So for development, for younger people, and for survival as you get older, it's very important. So imagine if you were to look at it under a microscope, you would actually see, imagine like a green, healthy grass, a field of grass. It's not green, but imagine a healthy field of grass and all little blades of grass, right? And they're nice and plump because they've been watered well and fertilized well. And then on top of that are all these floating bubbles, like those scrubbing bubbles in that commercial, right?
Right.
Now, the scrubbing bubbles are all these bacteria, these amazing bacteria, and they're starting to break down food so the villi could absorb the nutrients and get them into the blood the proper way, not through gut, a looser gut. And it is also then eliminating the toxins that they do not want to be absorbed. So this combination of this mucosal layer and the villi underneath are what we refer to as the microbiome. Wait, we didn't say it together. The microbiome. And so you got to learn this word because it is the second brain. We've been ignoring it, you know, for so long, and now we have a product for the very first time that's addressing the issue of a compromised microbiome. And to me, this is cutting edge, exciting stuff. And so what do we want to talk to them about next?
Well, I think we need to talk about the solution. We've talked about the problem. We, as a society, have compromised microbiomes. We are negatively affecting our second brain. And whether that is from overuse of antibiotics, whether that is from the GMOs, the glyphosate, there's many reasons that our microbiome is being compromised, but that's the problem, and we like to be solution-oriented kind of folks, and that's what I want to talk about next. I want to talk about the solution that we found that can help your body to have support a healthy microbiome.
So, and that's a good, see, here's the thing. There was a time when you took some antibiotics and it hurt your microbiome. We knew that. There was a time when, no offense, alcoholics knew that they were destroying their microbiome and they would get the leaky gut. Everybody knew that. There was a time when if you were constipated, you knew that you would get auto-intoxication. And even if you were pregnant, the same thing happens. And all she had to do was take a good probiotic. We even have a great probiotic that was just for that type of, you know, disruption of the microbiome, a micro disruption of the microbiome. But we now have a macro disruption of the microbiome. And that's why we needed a macro solution, not just your, you know, garden variety or even your specialized probiotic. It had to go way beyond that. And that's what we've done.
And I love the way you talked about, you know, we're going to aid, we're going to assist, we're going to support the body in the healthy, you know, becoming healthy again, turning that brown grass. Like, have you ever seen it? This is happening in my yard right now.
She's got a puppy.
The grass is brown, but you know what? You give it some water, you give it some TLC, and it can become green again.
Yeah.
And so I feel like we have a situation right here on our hands where we can do that with our own microbiome. And that is a product that you innovated, Dave. You totally innovated this by working with a
With
doctor.
scientists who are really smarter than me.
And so this product, I don't know how well you can see this, it's called Biome Medic. It is the newest offering in our line here at Purium, and it is a capsule product that we're going to go through the ingredients and talk about how each ingredient can aid, assist, and support the healthy generation of the microbiome.
Awesome. Well, every product is just like a soup. It's a combination of each ingredient, but it's also how they work together. You know what I mean? When you have soup and it's only been cooking for half an hour,
It doesn't taste very good.
it's water with different
With
vegetables
carrots
in
and
it.
celery and onion.
But boy, the next morning after it's simmered for a couple of hours and then you let it sit in the fridge overnight and then warmed it up again, it's all mixed together. And that's the way a good herbal formulation has to be.
And that's called synergistic.
It's called synergy.
When
Exactly.
the sum of the parts are greater than the addition of each of the pieces.
Absolutely. When one wouldn't work nearly as good as it does in the end without the other, sort of like Amy and I. And so do you want to go through the ingredients? Tell me where we're at in our presentation here.
Well, it looks like we're running a little tight on time, but I think this subject is so important. We just need to keep going and get the information.
Would you mind sticking around
out
with this
there.
for just a minute?
So let's talk about the there's a few special ingredients, but the really special ingredient that you really just discovered, and that's called Pre-BioSure. So tell us about the Pre-BioSure.
Okay, but first I have to set the table, okay? The problem is that the friendly bacteria get killed, and then they can no longer protect the villi, and then the villi begin to die. So we've got multiple problems here. First of all, the reason they're dying is the toxin. So we have to get rid of the toxin. And then we have to encourage those friendly bacteria to start to grow back, the ones that live there naturally. And then we have to encourage the villi to regrow as well. And so in order to do this, it actually took a combination of 4 ingredients, but the most important ingredient was the hyper feeding of the hyperfertilization is the word I was looking at, of the bacteria that were already living there. And so some scientists in Europe took a fraction of wheat germ, they put it into a centrifuge, and they were feeding it to bacteria and showing that it had this immediate, amazing, it is a super prebiotic, not just a prebiotic, it is a super prebiotic, not from starch as most prebiotics are, but from fat. And it works amazing, specifically for the bacteria that live, that's right, in the microbiome. And when that ingredient alone was used, pigs who had been eating feed, that's right, that had glyphosate on it, were getting sick. And they actually created this fraction to get their pigs healthy again and realized there was a greater market for humanity. Thank goodness.
Absolutely. So just to restate that one more time, because sometimes it's hard when you're learning about a new concept. So this
it's a single ingredient.
It's a single ingredient. It's the main ingredient in Purium's newest product offering. And this wheat germ extract, this digestive wheat germ extract, helps again to rejuvenate, to support the rejuvenation and activation of the beneficial bacteria and the microflora living in your digestive tract, living in your microbiome. And again, what do we call the microbiome?
It's the second brain. And if your second brain is dying, so are we.
So are we. Yeah, you're not having a very happy life.
So check this out. The problem was that even when you're feeding those bacteria, we wanted to accelerate the elimination of the toxins that were causing the bacteria to die. So first we're going to feed the bacteria so they grow faster, then we're going to get rid of the poison that's keeping them, making them die to begin with. So it's a 1-2 punch. So what we're going to use there is called lactospore. Lactospore, imagine a little seed. No, imagine those, what are the things that they grow up and they open up with all the things and you blow them? And then all the things spread over. Well, lactospores, like little dandelions, they eat them and then they explode in your stomach and all the spores go everywhere. And when they do, they grab that toxin and they take it out of the body. And so the lactospore is doing the heavy lifting and helping chelate the toxin, but it's being assisted by something you're all very familiar with, and that is our fulvic acid. Fulvic acid helps things migrate from one part of the body to another. It's a transport mineral. It actually makes like water wetter, it makes things like that, but the bottom line is that it helps lift up the toxin so the bacteria can take it away. So chelation and elimination, two ingredients that have nothing to do with the prebiotic, right? And then we have another amazing another type of fertilizer to help the villi grow. And that is humic ore. Humic ore are specialized minerals that can help regenerate tissue. So it's really amazing. The 4 ingredients, we're gonna regrow the villi, we're gonna get rid of the toxin, we're gonna regrow the bacteria, and we have 4 ingredients that do that, and that's gonna overall strengthen the microbiome. Now imagine your lawn with your dog and Simba peeing on it every day, and it not being
little brown yellow spots.
and then one day you say, you know what, we're going to take you to the dog park and we're going to get someone to walk you. So you're going to take it and you're going to get rid of that toxin, and then you're going to nourish it. You're going to water it, and you're going to put nutrients in, and it's going to grow back. And this is what we're doing to your microbiome. We're getting rid of the reason why it's suffering. We're nourishing it and letting it grow back.
So I love that grass analogy. The grass analogy is perfect. If you have a lawn, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Because the villi is just like those blades of grass, just like this. And as your lawn starts to die, what happens, it feels like the green is getting further, it's like separating. So when it's nice and lush, it's very close and tight fitted together. And as it starts to die a little bit, it starts to separate ever so slightly until you have these patches where you can actually see the dirt between. And so think of your villi just like the grass. We want it tight. We want this.
We want a tight permeability. We don't want stuff to be able to squeeze through there until it's ready to go through and it's pulled through by the villi.
Exactly. So I love the grass analogy. The grass analogy is so appropriate for our gut, our intestine, our second brain. And this product is helping put that tightness back together to help your body to aid and assist and support the healthy rejuvenation, rebuilding of that villi.
Okay, a question came in and they're asking if this has wheat germ oil, is it safe for celiacs and those who are sensitive to gluten? And I believe that with the illustration we're going to share with you, that you will feel comfortable that in fact it is, but we want you to make your own determination. So I've got a little something to show you, and my pasta, please. May I get that? It's okay, I'll get it myself.
Stephanie.
It's okay, I got it.
And while we are grabbing this little illustration, we actually are going to give away a couple of 4-packs of this awesome new product. So do you mind if I call the winners really fast so they can check in and say hello before we go into our next illustration?
We learn from our mistakes. We don't call the winners toward the end of the show. We got to call them right now, so at least we have a little bit of time before we go into our explanation. So absolutely.
Awesome.
So excited about our winners.
I'm so excited about our winners. So we are looking for William Burke and Tom McManus. So William Burke and Tom McManus, if you are with us, please shout out and leave a comment so you can claim your family pack of Purium's newest product, Biome Medic.
And that's 4. Family pack is 4. And so the name again is William Burke. What was it?
William Burke and Tom McManus.
Awesome. We're getting good at this.
We are. So let's talk about this gluten, because I've had several questions where people say this is an amazing product and I know it can help myself and my family, but I try to stay away from gluten because I don't like the bloat. I may not be celiac, maybe I do have an intolerance, but I don't like the bloat. And so let's talk about that.
Well, here's a crazy thing is that there's gluten tolerance, even if you're a celiac. In other words, there's a level that they call gluten-free, and that's 20 parts per million. Now, if you have a product that's 15 parts per million, it is considered gluten-free. So that means that you can eat this entire plate of pasta, right?
Right, a gluten-free, acclaimed gluten-free pasta.
This entire plate of pasta and not have a reaction. Now, our product is 200 parts per million. 200 parts per million. And so equivalency, that's about these two noodles, right? That's about these two noodles. And so maybe a few ounces, if you take the 2 servings a day, maybe it's 6 or 8 noodles, 10 noodles. And the bottom line is that you would actually have to take 10 of these a day just to actually hit a threshold. And Amy's going to tell you a little bit more about that from a scientific perspective.
So yeah, that's a great illustration. 1 noodle, 2 noodles. And so again, the FDA, so the Food and Drug Administration, sets a limit of what can be labeled as gluten-free. And that is something that has 20 parts per million or less. Now, in a serving of pasta, at 20 parts per million, you can have over 1 gram of gluten per serving and still meet the criteria of being gluten-free. So what we are here to say is in 1 capsule of the Biome Medic, and we're going to talk about the dosage here in a minute, but in 1 capsule of the Biome Medic, it's less than 10 times 1 serving of gluten-free pasta. And so
less than 1/10 of a serving of 1 serving of gluten-free pasta. Now, I've never known anybody just to eat 1 serving that's on the box size. I'm just saying, it's like when you go to the cookies and it says serving is a cookie and a half. You know, I don't think that many people break that cookie in half. And but the bottom line is that the math is real simple. I want to illustrate it again. If this is gluten-free pasta, it still could have 20 parts per million.
Yes.
Right?
It could still have over a milligram of gluten in this plate of pasta, even though it's labeled gluten-free.
And that would mean, again, that you not even coming close. There's nowhere near that much gluten, even though this has 10 times more the allowable limit. It isn't the limit, it's the quantity. It isn't just the amount, it's the quantity. So if you do the math, this is far, far less than even eating gluten-free pasta.
And there's a study that you can look up online conducted by the American Society for Clinical Nutrition back in 2007, where they did a case study of the tolerance of even people with confirmed celiac disease, and this is well below that at the limits of that study done by the American Society for Clinical Nutrition, you would have to take 500 pills of Biome Medic a day to meet their threshold. So that illustrates just how small amount of gluten is in this product and how it can address that. Even though it has 200 parts per million, it is not going to trigger any kind of, it's not going to trigger sensitivities for those who may be sensitive to gluten.
Absolutely. I think that's a great, great illustration. And I hope we didn't belabor the point too much, but there's so many people who are so very, very interested and they really want to know. So I'm gonna throw one last off question that wasn't on our script.
Okay.
Because I'm getting contacted by a lot of doctors, and a lot of you are reaching out to doctors. And the doctors are saying, hey, you know, where's the proof? We want to see white papers, we want to see clinical studies, we want to see this and that. Well, the problem is that this is a very new problem, and clinical studies take years and years and years. What we do have is we have studies on each individual ingredient saying it does the things that we say it does. when you put all four together, we believe the synergy is going to be unprecedented. And so we are in the process actually of doing some preliminary studies, and they're being done by the highest scientific standards, observed and and in a way that they will and can be published in the future. And we're not allowed to talk about how those studies are going, but they're just a few weeks away from being completed, and we're going to be sharing those with you. And we wouldn't be talking about that if we weren't confident of the outcome.
Well, I agree, and I've been taking the product. We were lucky enough to get samples about a month
Early on,
before
yeah.
convention, and let's talk about the dosage. Let's talk about the dosage for a maintenance dose. Let's talk about what a more therapeutic dose might be, or what's often
Let's call it an aggressive
or loading dose. And then questions also come up about the age appropriateness of the product.
Okay, well, definitely. So remember that only a pediatrician could recommend nutrition for a child under 2 years old. We can't go there, and we don't want to, okay? But I believe in nourishing your child immediately through you. So if you're breastfeeding, and I'm not judgmental, I'm just saying I've always recommended 2 years. I know it sounds crazy, and which means that you can, in fact, feed your child what you want to feed him by eating that yourself. And you know what I mean? And so if you are breastfeeding, this product is just fine, okay? And that's a good thing. When the child is 2 years or older, they can take it. Start with a small dose, of course. Speaking of dosing, everybody's different. I can tell you in the course of the feedback I'm getting, for some people, taking 1 or 2 pills a day is giving them sort of a ramped up effect, because when they take 3 to 4 pills a day, it was detoxing a little too quickly for them, because this group was eating a lot more fast food, a lot more standard American diet. The people who were more vegan, more clean eating, they were having great results, and they felt the difference themselves, but they were able to tolerate 4 tablets a day during the loading dose stage. So I really believe that you need to be honest with yourself and gauge your potential level of toxicity. Start with 2 pills a day, work your way up to 3 and then 4. Once you get to 4, stay at 4 for 30 days. But don't rush to get to 4. Make sure your body's ready. And obviously loose stools, diarrhea, it's not anything that's horrible. I've never heard anything that bad. But I'm saying if you experience that, just back up. Because its job is, remember, the whole reason we're doing this is to release embedded toxins, and let's do that slower as opposed to fast.
Absolutely. So just to recap, and it's kind of similar to, with the transformation, which is a
just
program.
like a green drink.
Exactly. Yeah. The transformation program, which we've been wildly successful with, but we recommend people, you might do a power shake, super amino, and a cherry for a month, and then start your transformation. Get your body used to those kind of foods and the lifestyles, and it's the exact same with this. So start with the maintenance dose for a week or 2 or a month. Go to the loading dose. So the maintenance dose is 1 capsule in the morning, 1 capsule in the evening. Do that for about a month, and then go to the loading dose, which would be 2 and 2, 2 in the morning, 2 in the evening. And then once that 30 days has gone by, you can go back to a maintenance dose of 1 and 1. And now when we talk about, maintenance dose for an adult, usually you think of an adult as somewhere over 100 pounds. So when you're talking about children, you do need to divide their weight, and make sure that they're getting the appropriate amount for their body weight.
Yeah, typically a tablet a day. So I want to recap a little bit. First of all, Amy was really nice to take us down memory road and just see all the amazing innovations. And I wish we could stop, because I thought of 4 or 5 more that I'm just like, oh my God, you forgot like some of the biggest ones.
Let's save that for next time.
Well, yeah, that's right. We'll save that for next time. So we talked about our role as innovators. And innovators, you recognize a problem and you seek to cut it off. You seek to stop it. So we block, suppress, and we repair. We hope that we can someday block the use of this chemical, but that isn't going to happen soon. We hope that we can suppress our exposure to it, because it's being used more and more and more. That's not going to happen soon. And so we're left to the most important part, and that's repair. And so we are taking a big step in that direction. We've identified a problem. It's the microbiome. The microbiome is the second brain. It sends out more neurotransmissions than the first brain. And when it starts to die, so does our first brain. So this is new information. This is a new product. This is a new problem. And you guys, you're going to be on the cutting edge, the forefront of being out there and changing the world, changing people's lives in a profound way. So thank you for being with us tonight. Amy, thank you so much for being here and sharing this amazing information. Did we miss any of our beats?
We did. So,
did we find our winner yet?
We did.
William.
So I want a big shout out to William and big
All
shout
right.
out to Tom. You've got a family 4-pack coming out to you of the Biome Medic. But let's talk before we close up tonight about what can we expect to feel? You know, what can you expect to feel when you're using this product and really changing your life with this product?
Well, here's what I know about a compromised microbiome is that it causes gut permeability to be dramatically increased, and it causes your immune system to be dramatically suppressed. It causes your mood to change. It makes your head cloudy, makes you tired during the day. Even coffee doesn't help. You know? And you're like, wow, I just had a cup of coffee, I still feel, and so immune things, you don't want to get into any disease talk, but lowered immunity, things that affect children and things that affect elder people, those are the things that we know are caused by a compromised, microbiome. What we can expect, we would hope to change all of that, to strengthen the microbiome and reverse all of that. That's our hope. It's a brand new product. We're not making any claims, but by putting it together the way we put it together, with the reports and the science that we have to back it up, we believe that this is the answer to the compromised microbiome. So how we're going to feel? Again, it's the opposite of how you feel when you have a compromised microbiome. Does that make any sense?
Absolutely, absolutely. And with all the things that I have read about the connection of the second brain to your mood, to the way you feel about yourself, your sleep patterns, your immunity, skin conditions,
The mood, though, let's go back to that. That serotonin, that feeling of being satisfied that, oh, I'm happy with the job I did. Oh, I'm happy with my spouse. Oh, I'm happy with my life versus, being
down in the dumps.
That's
all the
chemical.
time.
That's chemical, and that chemical is released by the brain. And remember that acetylserotonin is the precursor to melatonin, and you can't make acetylserotonin without serotonin.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we all know how important melatonin is to getting that deep, restful, drop into those circadian rhythm sleep patterns.
Plus, it's a powerful antioxidant as well.
Absolutely. So, we know that there is a problem. It's a pervasive problem and we have a solution. We have a solution, and that solution is Purium's brand new product, Biome Medic, and it is available. It is available now. If you pre-ordered your Biome Medic, I don't even know if you know this, if you pre-ordered your Biome Medic at our convention earlier in the month, those products are shipping. They're shipped. They're on the way. They may have actually arrived at some people's houses in California today. So if you pre-ordered, be on the lookout for your Purium package and your Biome Medic on the inside, because it truly is life-changing. There's a big problem out there. We're creating awareness. We're innovating space. We're disrupting the marketplace, and I think we have some big solutions right here with this product.
75% of the food on our shelves is affected with glyphosate, and sometimes it could be 20 times more than a level that is considered safe. There absolutely is a problem out there. We're doing our best to work toward a solution, and we appreciate you being on the call with us tonight. Great job, Amy, and we'll see you next month.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the amazing information, Dave, all the research, the passion, and congratulations to William Burke and Tom McManus. You're going to have a family pack headed out to you. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.